Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I forgot to press the unmute button there. I hope we're all doing well on this Thursday morning. It is 9:47, a little bit later than usual. Hope everyone is enjoying the freezing cold. There's no snow here. Just looking out the window, no snow here at the moment, but there are some weather warnings for the weekend, and people have got their eye on the Leeds Brighton game. If that gets called off, that would be absolutely typical. I'm not going to focus too much on that. At the time of recording, let's just assume that game's going ahead and there's not going to be any more postponements. Brighton can't have any more postponements, although we would probably end up with a triple game week at some point, which might be quite fun. But no, I think we're going to assume that everything is fine. Hi to Big A in the chat. Hi to Wayne Robinson. Hi to Fermi Fox. Thank you all for joining me and keeping me company on my team selection live stream. Interesting week. You'll see... from the title, I've already kind of made up my mind as to what I'm doing this week, and actually the deed is done. HAALAND is gone. I will talk a little bit more about the logic, can you call it logic, of that. I think it's the right move for my team, and going forward, I might be taking a couple of extra hits as well, might be saving them. It's all a bit kind of up in the air. Anyway, but yeah, that's my plan. It was a funny game week in 26. Obviously, I think that's been kind of covered to death, but I will talk a little bit about that as well, and then I'll go into kind of my plans for the really important weeks, the season-defining weeks going forward. So let's go straight into 26. This was my team. You can see it all kind of centered around three main players. My only three players to return sort of a decent points were Kepa with 6, Salah with 21, and Mitoma, my boy, with 13. Haaland got an assist, but then it was blanks for Zinchenko, my new recruit Henry, Tarkowski with another 0. That's 3 zeros in a row. Saka captain, really disappointing with 4. 2 for Rashford, Odegaard with 2, and Kane blanking against Wolves. So yeah, I mean, it was a good week. It was a fairly hefty green arrow for me, 80k up the ranks, spearheaded really by Salah. I think there was obviously a lot of disappointment on Twitter and on Scout about those who wildcarded out their Liverpool players, Trent, Nunes and Salah all delivering in game week 26 in that ridiculous match against United. We covered this on Black Box last night, Mark and I, and lots of chat on Twitter. If you wildcarded and you feel like it was still feel like it was the right thing for your team, I think if you had triple Liverpool and Nketiah, had no Brighton players, had no Brentford players, didn't have Kane, for example, had players like Patterson and Bueno, there was lots of teams that I saw that absolutely the wildcard was the play. If you were wildcarding for like 3 or 4 players, maybe you're getting a bit of FOMO, then it might be, worth just asking yourself whether it was the right time to play it. And, it's kind of self-reflection without hindsight is important, I think, for this game. That's why I started the kind of Black Box podcast, to kind of reflect on decisions I made and try and learn from them and do better, if you can, next season. So the wildcard is such a powerful chip. And like I said to Mark, I was surprised to see so many people playing it, especially when I felt some of their teams were sort of already fairly well set up for the weeks ahead. But it's done now. Your wildcard is what it is. I think the wildcard team, the template looks strong going forward. So hopefully you can hit some big numbers going forward. I think it's going to be really interesting with this Salah, Haaland and Kane kind of dynamic, because looking at the wildcard teams, no teams I've seen have all three in them. I struggled to get the team I want with the 3 as well, so I've had to sacrifice one, being Haaland. Kane, though, is the one kind of off the boil at the moment. A really poor performance again from Spurs last night. Problems with the manager, talks of Poch coming back, issues within the dressing room. It's not a happy camp at the moment. The only thing kind of his saving grace is that game in 28 as well. So that's the reason why, obviously, a lot of people wildcarded really was because they wanted Kane in place for that Southampton away game in 28, and it remains to be seen whether that's going to be worth it. I mean, it's a good game on paper next against Forest. The Wolves game is really disappointing, but then in 28 it's Southampton, and then it's Everton. So it's a good run for Kane. So no distractions now, no chance of trophies unless you can count the top 4 trophy as something for them. But that's going to be, a challenge for them, I think, given how they're playing at the moment and the competition they've got from Newcastle, from Liverpool, even Brighton and Brentford. Hoping to get into that place. Imagine my face on the team selection video if Brighton ended up in the Champions League and I got to watch Matoma and Lewis Dunk at the Nou Camp. Well, they'll be in the Champions League, won't they? They're in the Europa League this year because they got knocked out. Some great questions. Yeah, keep them coming in the chat. I will answer some of those at the end, like I usually do. Moshe Asarov asked where my beer is. I was a bit early for that. Actually, I'm trying to cut down on beer and stuff lately. I'm trying to get fit for Game Week 39 in June. That's, if you don't know what that is, that's the kind of the charity match of some of the guys on Twitter. North versus South. I'm playing for the South at right back. I played last year. We won. It was best day of my life. So I've been out for a while because I had this hernia operation. So I'm trying to get back into fitness, but it's not that easy. But trying to cut down a bit on booze and lose a bit of this gut before that game. Anyway, 26 is done. Decent green, 56 points. Only 2 doublers going into this when I know a lot of people are going in with 5 or even 6. So a few concerns. But this is my team for this week. So I made my move last night, which even saying it causes me untold anxiety. Haaland is out. He's got an away game against Crystal Palace and Tony is in. Now, the logic for that is that Tony has got 5 games in the next 3 game weeks. And I'm probably going to be wildcarding in Game Week 30 anyway. That isn't set in stone, but that's the likelihood of when I'm going to aim it. So it's Tony's 5 versus Haaland's 2. Now, Haaland isn't captainable in either of his 2 games because he hasn't got a double game week and there's double game weeks going on. And Tony would be my captain this week, I think, given that he's got the most routes into points, I think, from what I saw. And that last game and from his season kind of so far. The other logic is Haaland's got a Palace side who they don't concede a huge amount of goals at home. They have had a couple of blips this season, don't get me wrong, but they haven't been mauled at home despite not having a particularly strong season. Also, Haaland's points haven't been that high in away games this season. I think he's got 2 or 3 double-digit hauls away from home this season. I think it's 2, which isn't a huge amount, obviously, and he hasn't had a crucial game. Like, they've had Champions League games, obviously, line up, and he's been in the starting lineup in the Premier League, and I think he'll start against Palace. But this game against Leipzig is absolutely key for Pep and for City this season. So, I am expecting 60 minutes for City when they've already got this game racked up. It just depends on how many goals Haaland has got in that time. If he's got a hat-trick, awful. Absolutely the wrong decision. If he's got between 1 and 2 goals, I can take that. Yeah, I can take that, I think. If he comes, if he gets, 2 goals would be 8, 10, 13. If he gets 13, whatever. If he gets 10 points, I think I'll be okay. Okay, if he's moving into the 13, 15s, 18 bracket, then that will really hurt. But, it is a single game week, and I didn't have another route into Tony. So, people asking me, people already saying, don't sell Haaland. How can you sell Haaland? Fedor says, how on earth can you sell Haaland? Well, it's not done with, I'm not happy about it. Don't get me wrong. It's just I had no other route to get in Tony. The 2 players, there's 3 players I'm considering for the captaincy. One is McAllister, who I don't own. If I wanted McAllister, it would have to be Odegaard. Out, I'm not selling Salah, Saka, Rashford or Matoma, so it'd be Odegaard to McAllister. The issue with that is then in 28, Arsenal got the game, Brighton haven't, so I'm losing a player for that match. So although I get McAllister's 2 games this week, I don't have a player in next week. So actually, the choice isn't that between that. It's literally Odegaard twice or McAllister twice. I don't think there's a huge amount in it between them both. Haaland to Tony, that gets me an extra game this week. And it gets me an extra player next week as well. So 2 extra games from Tony and a captaincy choice on the player who I think is close between McAllister. So that's the logic for that. A lot of people, excuse me the pronunciation of your name, Twasapeli Salika. Most people are going to sell Haaland and get him back. It's not a big deal. They're not this week. That's the thing. I think the wildcarders have mostly kept him, and they're looking at potentially selling him next week for Watkins, but they are keeping him this week, because why on earth would you sell Haaland against Palace this week, particularly if you wildcarded? You're already set up well for this week. So it's a risk this week. Next week, I think we'll see some sales for him. I think with Haaland, it's purely about getting through this week as well, and then it means in 30 that I can bring him back. So the question now is, okay, Haaland's gone. That's it. That's over. That's done. Tony went up in price last night. That's done. He's going to be my captain this week, unless I have a dream or something that Matoma gets a hat trick in one of these two games. I really do like the McAllister shout. I think if you've got McAllister, I think the more I think about it, the more I think McAllister is the standout Brighton pick, which is a complete reversal from what I was saying last week and on Twitter. I'm just really, really impressed with the positions that he's taking up, and his heat map is really strong. The kind of central positions near the goal that he's taking. He's got the highest XGI non-penalty out of all midfielders over the last 6 weeks, which is incredible, and he's got the penalties and the direct free kicks as well. So with a captaincy, for me, it's all about routes to points. That's the reliability that you want from your captain, and McAllister at the moment has the most in the Brighton team. Got the stats, got the set pieces, the free kicks, and the penalties as well. So if you've got McAllister, I think he is the choice. If you haven't, then I think it's Tony. That's where I'm lying on it now. So with this team, I'll just read out the rest of them. So it's Kepa in goal against Leicester. I'm happy with Kepa. That's fine. I think Chelsea with Fofana are a stronger defensive side, and I'm happy with him going forward. I've got double Newcastle defence, Trippier and Botman against Wolves. Not overly happy with that. Wolves have scored 2 goals against Spurs in the last game. Newcastle have been on the slide a little bit as well. No double game week. There's players like Estupinian. Got to get that pronunciation. I will get it right one day as well. Who I don't have, who I'd prefer. It's just whether I move Tarkowski to Estupinian this week, but I will talk a little bit about what my plans are for that in a second. And Henry is there as well. And then the rest of my team I think was really strong. Salah, Saka, Rashford, Odegaard, Matoma, Kane and Tony. So it's only really that choice in defence that I've got the kind of conundrum on. On my bench is Zinchenko. I think Fulham scores, so I'm not too upset with that. It's Tarkowski, who I could move to another doubler. And then it's Nonto as well, who I'll be losing next week. So I've got 4.5 million in the bank, which is a hell of a lot of money, more than I've had before, I think. But not really too worried about that, because I'll be using that money next week to kind of spend upgrading the likes of Nonto and Tarkowski as well. So the current plan, I think, is to hold this week. I think I've done the Haaland to Tony move. The only other move I'm considering is Botman out for Estupinian. That's the other move that I'm thinking of. The issue with that is that I'm losing Botman, who's got a decent home game against Wolves. It'll be for a hit for a -4, and Estupinian hasn't got a game in. Did I say Botman out? Sorry, I meant Tarkowski out, but I'd be benching Botman. But Estupinian hasn't got a game, so then I'll be playing 10 in game week 28. Now, the other thing I could do is just hold this week. So play my double Newcastle defence, not take the hit, and take the hit next week instead. If I take the hit next week instead, I can get a full 11 out for 28. I'd have Kepa in goal, Trippier, Henry, Botman, Zinchenko, and I'd bring in Chilwell for Tarkowski instead, or potentially Reece James, one of the 2 Chelsea wing-backs. And then I'd have Saka, Odegaard. I'd bring in Watkins for Nonto, and have Tony and Kane, and then a bench of Ward, Mitoma, Salah, and Rashford. So essentially the way of kind of trying to work this out is that I'd have 2 players in Botman this week at home to Wolves, and then Chilwell at home to Everton. Now, is Estupinian worth, for 2 games, worth more than those 2 players? Would you rather have Estupinian, or Botman and Chilwell and 4 points? I think the latter option is the most sensible for me in that. So I'm bringing Watkins for Nonto anyway. So it's literally, do I take the hit this week or next week? I think it makes more sense for me to roll the transfer and just take the. I think there's going to be a bit of pain this week because there are players that I don't have that the wildcarders have moved for. That's. I didn't wildcard, so I knew I'm not going to have as good a team as wildcarders this week because some of them have got six Brentford, Brighton. So I think I've just got to kind of take this week on the chin a little bit. It could be a complete disaster if Brighton get back-to-back clean sheets. If McAllister hauls and Haaland goes off, I'm going to be 30, 40 points down on a lot of teams. So it could be a complete disaster. But if I can get through this week, okay, go into next week and I get a -4 and get 11 players out and set myself up really, really nicely for game week 29, I think I'm in a pretty good position. So I don't think I'm going to do the hit for the Brighton defender. I'm just going to pray that Newcastle keep the clean sheet against Wolves. It will hurt if they don't, but let's just go for that. And then I'll bring in Chilwell next week. So that's the plan. Yeah, I mean, people in the chat seem to agree with me. Yeah, I didn't mean selling Botman. I'm not selling Botman. I'll be keeping him for next few. I meant Tarkowski as well. Yeah, and then a few people say Botman and Chile +4 any day. I think if you offered it on paper, if you offered Estepinian with Leeds and Palace, or Botman with Wolves at home and then Chill with Everton at home and 4 points, I think you're taking the one. So yeah, so that's what I'm kind of having to do. And then going into 29, this would be my team. It would be Kepa in goal. Trippier, Henry, Botman and Chilwell, all with doubles. Matoma, Salah. I could move Odegaard out to someone else. Maybe McAllister, given I'll keep going on about him with Brentford and Bournemouth. And Rashford, all with doubles, and Watkins and Tony. So 11 doublers. Ward on the bench, Zinchenko, Saka and Kane. Hit the bench boost. I've only taken one hit over these 3 weeks. I've got 11 out in 28. I've got a team of 12 doublers for 29. And then I wildcard into game week 30. I think that is a solid strategy going forward. Yeah, like I said, the only thing that can hurt me really is this week if the Brighton players go off, if McAllister goes off, and if Haaland goes off as well, and if Brighton keep a couple of clean sheets, which none of those things are beyond the realms of possibility at all. I think we've got a good chance of clean sheets. I think we've got a good chance of scoring plenty of goals over this. And I think it hurts more because it's the prospect of my own team doing that and me not having the players in place. But sometimes you've got to make sacrifices, and I've got to hope the wild card in 30 can kind of recover some of these points lost. I don't know which differentials I'm going to be getting on that game week 30 wild card. I mean, it will be to bring Haaland back most likely. We might see a few wild carders or a few Haaland sellers who have played the wild card struggling to get Haaland back, particularly if they've moved the money around their squad. So that'll be an advantage. For me, and then hopefully there'll be some players emerging that people haven't kind of got the look of. I can move for some United players, for example, as well, and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the plan. Do check out FPL Team. Do plug in your team and see how you're shaped up for the next 3-4 weeks. It's an absolutely amazing tool and one of the best out there as well. And it's completely free. So yeah, do check out Peter's FPL Team. Planner, solid plan, says FPL Planner. Well, if FPL Planner is saying solid plan, then it must be pretty good. Phil798, I did the same move yesterday before the price rise. Haaland, Tony, still have Kane and Salah. Yep. It's amazing, isn't it, that you can't. There's no one that's going to be out there that has 3 premiums. I don't think the Salah, Kane, and Haaland trio is really kind of hard to get in when there's so many other players, particularly midfield. The midfield is so stacked as well. So everyone's going to be kind of looking at Salah if you don't have him against Bournemouth, or Haaland like me against Palace, or Kane against Forest if you don't have him. So you kind of everyone. So yeah, Haaland is the kind of sacrificial lamb for me. Watchlist. So I've updated this. This was season data. I've updated it now to since restart data. We've got plenty of data to look through that, so that's fine. Looking at defence, Trippier's top of the non-penalty XGI. He's the most attacking defender since the restart, with Trent below him at 0.31. So attacking return from Trent every 3-ish games on estimate. Not amazing. Tarkowski's third, which is pretty impressive, but he's been absolutely awful for all of us that have bought him in. So yeah, looking forward to dumping him. The likes of Zinchenko 0.21, and then it's Henry at 0.18, not high. Shaw, Estepinian. I mean, Estepinian 0.11. That is so low. Chilwell 0.11. James, 0.1. These are crazy low scores I mean, Chilwell and James have been restored now to wing-back berth, so I'm expecting these numbers to absolutely improve massively. But looking at the defenders, Pinnock got the goal for Brentford. It's just a lottery, really. I think if any of your defenders are scoring with a non-penalty XGI per 90 of less than 0.2, you're getting very, very jammy, very lucky. I mean, and it could be any of them. So, I just wouldn't worry too much about the attacking threat of players. There's just not much in it between any of them. Going for the sure starters, the likes of Dunk over Webster, for example, I think is just worth that bit of extra money for that. But don't expect huge amounts of attacking returns from any of these guys. In midfield, it's Rashford, top of the pile, 0.71, really, really high. Non-penalty XG up in 90 for him. March and McAllister, second and third. March with 0.67. McAllister with 0.61 out of the players that I'm looking at. As I said, McAllister over the last 6 has even eclipsed March, but March's numbers have been consistently high, since the restart. And both of these are, almost double, not quite double. Matoma's 0.39. I'm down at the bottom of this wish list, who's below the likes of Saka, Odegaard, and Maddison. Salah 0.58, high, not elite levels of kind of expected performance that we've seen from him in previous seasons, but decent. The haul he got against United was very, very difficult to predict with those numbers dropping. But you've got to hope against Bournemouth he's not going to blank like he did earlier in the season as well. And then up top, I have omitted Watkins again, I think for the second week in a row. I promise I will add him into next week. But it's Núñez at the top, 0.84, ridiculous numbers. For him, I think he is going to be an impact for us between now and the end of the season, because I think Liverpool are going to improve and get that top 4 spot ultimately in the end. So Núñez will be key for that. Haaland in second, which is obviously a concern for me. Felix, someone I'm looking at, he might come in next week instead of Watkins, but Watkins has got Bournemouth at home, which I think is a great fixture. He's got the penalties as well. Felix got Everton at home, also a great fixture. But I've added Havertz in here as well. 0.51 for Havertz, not putting extra per 90, is high and has pens as well. Although some rumours that he might be sharing those with Reece James, which again promotes him a little bit higher. I think I'll stick with the wing backs for Chelsea. Pick one of them. I think Chilwell is the more secure starter, so I think I'll end up going with him and ignoring the strikers. Kane down in 0.47. That's quite low for him, but he's the only Spurs player I'd be looking at. I wouldn't be going near the defence. I know a few people went for Emerson Royale and got burnt by that kind of instantly, so that was a shame for them. And then Nonto, I mean, he's only on this list because he's actually in my team, but his XG non-penalty per 90 is 0.28. The move to Ferguson, 0.58. If you've got someone like Nonto, if you've got kind of a budget striker, a Greenwood maybe, who you're looking up, I think you're going to move on. I think Ferguson is the obvious choice. I think he can get a couple of goals over this double game week to come, and then he's a hold for the other one as well. So he'll keep his place. Good option, I think. So yeah, that's the watch list. Apologies to Watkins. He will honestly come into this watch list next week, I promise. Right, let's take some questions from the chat. Dave Lister, nice plan. Thank you. Do you know what? Thanks. It's nice to know my plan isn't completely insane. And there is some logic to it. Because it doesn't feel like it when you sell Haaland. And I've been burnt by Haaland before. And I've been burnt by Haaland before at playing Palace. He was at home for that game. He's away this game. So I'm really hoping for not a repeat. For that as well. Nigel the Crab sold Haaland a few weeks back. I was called mad back then, but because I got ahead of the curve. That was brave. Wow. To sell him, in that period when he had some decent fixtures as well. Absolutely, yeah. If you're not going to captain him, you do have to ask the question whether it's worth it. And I think Saka and Rashford have given us that kind of choice now to go against him. Be interesting if City obviously do get knocked out of the Champions League. There's no guarantee they're going to go through. I'm expecting them to go through, but Leipzig are a good side. Then it's going to make him maybe a perma captain again and be down at the end of the season as well. Andy Martin in the chat. Oh God, it's a good plan. Oh, if Andy's saying that, that's a bit of a slight concern. But yeah, come on. Have you got have you done it, Andy? I know Hindu Monkey was saying he sold Haaland as well. FPL Hero, are you scared of the weather this week? Love that question. Can't be scared of the weather. I've got a dog, got to take him out, kind of whatever. Oh, the impact it might have, I'm guessing, on my FPL team, not on my health. Not really. What can you do? You know, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's got Brighton players. Everyone's got the same players. Pretty much. Yeah, if someone goes down, everyone goes down. There's not really much you can do unless we get a heads up before the game week starts that the match is off. I think it's kind of impossible to plan. I don't think you should base your transfers on the don't bring you're not going to not bring in McAllister because sorry, that's my WhatsApp. You're not going to not bring in McAllister because the game might get called off. We can only go with the concrete information that we have. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. Sell Haaland, Johnson or Felix for Tony. Oh yeah, I think you'd probably sell Johnson out of those three. I think I'd keep Felix for the Leicester and the Everton game, and then the two home matches. If you've got the money in the bank, I wouldn't sell Haaland this week if I could sell one of the other two. So yeah, I'd probably sell Johnson in that as well. Sujan Pillay, Salah penalty is due. Yeah, I hope so. That would be nice as well. And I'll just take one more. Kareem Attia. Should I keep Mahrez or replaced with March or McAllister for a free transfer? I would do Mahrez to McAllister for sure. I think, again, you're gaining extra games. And I think McAllister is a strong captaincy option this week. So I would personally make that move. There's no guarantee that Mahrez starts either. He might be favoured for the Champions League. Foden's been playing well. So yeah, Mahrez to McAllister would be the move that I'd make. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, do give us a like. Do obviously make sure you're subscribed to the Scout channel as well. I'll be back next week to talk about the Haaland pain. But Brighton winning both their games and getting close to top 4 will hopefully ease that pain a little bit. So thanks again, and I will see you all next week.